project, an EU project, where we introduce a new curriculum that is titled Next Generation Entrepreneurship. And of course, I also take what we probably in this part of the world refer to as conversation in English, but I don't think it's anything about conversation in English. It's more about communication management. I'll put it that way. So I teach across spaces. I'm an interdisciplinary researcher, and I've traveled very well. The only country that I was thinking of coming to was Ukraine. Unfortunately, I had to put a full stop on that until, or not a full stop, maybe a colon, right, until the ongoing crisis is over. It's my pleasure to be here today, and I'm going to be speaking both from a personal experience and also relating it with what is currently going on. All right? Do we all understand? Okay. Now, seeing you guys sitting down here reminds me, let me start my time. Seeing you guys sitting down here reminds me of when I was in high school, and my dream had always been to be a medical doctor. I studied so hard that at a point I had to get my glasses. And you know what it means to want to study to be a medical doctor in a country like Nigeria, where we have inconsistent power supply and regular tribal clashes and interreligious clashes. And I can also say that when I took the decision to not pursue medicine again, it was a very tough decision not to pursue medicine again, and then to toe in the part of social science. But I made up my mind that I'm going to be successful at what I'm doing, and that's why I'm here today. Secondly, I also like to say that I'm not new to crisis. I'm not new to, clashes, all right? I've experienced quite a couple before I left the continent of Africa to come to Europe. And I know what it means to put your hands up in the air and go to classes. I know what it means to go to bed in the night and not know what's going to come out the following. And that's why it became really very interesting for me. I've been following the situation across the globe since I became politically aware. Like my pol science teacher will usually say, if you're politically aware or alive, okay, since I became politically alive, about the situation of things going on from the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1989 to the Rwanda war genocide in 1994, to the Sudan crisis, the Somalia crisis, and of course, to the various invasion of Serbia, Georgia, the invasion of the eastern part of Ukraine in 2014, and so on and so forth. So I've been following things up. And maybe I may not really understand the reason why I was doing that at the time. I was speaking those interests. But I think today, while I was, not today actually, leading to this lecture, I began to have a better understanding of why I became really interested, so that I'll be able to, pass on to you guys the knowledge that I've acquired over the years. So to this, I'm going to say, Slava Ukraina. Thank you. So let's get to it. So I want you guys to imagine if your university was bombed tomorrow. Of course, many of you have experienced some of that, and your library is gone. Your professors are scattered everywhere. Your simulation labs is destroyed. The question I want to ask you is this: how would you train the next generation of doctors? I want us to keep that at the back of our mind. I often hear people say, let's get everything so that we can rebuild it again. But I am of the opposing view that we don't have to do that. And do you know why? It takes time to build. It takes a lot of effort to build. It takes less effort to destroy. You can spend time, 20 years, 50 years, building a whole lot of things, and then in less than 5 minutes, you can, destroy. So today's lecture sits at the intersection of three, forces. The first is the devastation of armed conflict on medical education. The second is the transformative potential of artificial intelligence. And the third one is the is the irreplaceable human work of rebuilding trust. Because when there is crisis and when there is conflict, when there is, war, trust is lost. And I can point you back to a crisis that we had in Nigeria. And I'm going to be using two major case studies, but I will be making references to other cases, all right? In Nigeria between 1966 and 1970, one of the questions I've been asking the older generation up to today was, why did that crisis happen? None of them have been able to sufficiently answer the reason, but what I noticed was that there was a lack of trust somewhere. And because trust was lost, everything became, zero. Am I doing something wrong? Okay. Now, over the next hour, we'll move through 5 sessions. First is from the scars of conflict. Then we'll go to AI, the promises of AI, and then we'll go into social responsibility. We'll talk briefly about stakeholder engagement, and finally, we'll look at the path forward. So I would like to let you know that this isn't just about academic exercise. It's a framework that you guys need to embrace as we discuss today, and we'll test, this discussion will be tested and in real, how we can employ and apply this in real life and in real institution under real fire. All right. This is what we're going to be doing. I've already given you that. We'll look at AI as a catalyst for resilience, and we will look at the stakeholder engagement. We'll talk about the scars of war or the scars of conflict. We'll look at social responsibility in a fractured landscape. And we will also look at the path forward. And then if you have any question at the end of the day, you can ask your question. I hope I'll be able to do justice to that when that time comes. All right. Okay. Now, this particular session here asks us to look unflinchingly at what conflict actually does to medical education. Not just to buildings, but to the invincible architecture of trust, of mentorship, and of professional identity. Now, we often speak of rebuilding infrastructures, right? We talk of rebuilding infrastructures, probably after the war. And I know that Ukraine has been talking about that for quite a while now. The EU has been at the forefront of leading it and saying, okay, we need to release about 90 billion euros. Am I correct? 90 billion euros in loan for the rebuilding and restructuring of the Ukraine. But infrastructure here is not an easy, thing that we want to talk about. I'm not talking about the easy part. You can rebuild a wall. You cannot so easily rebuild the students' belief, you understand, in their degree and what their degree means, or that their degree means something. All right. And the next few slides after we'll talk about this is where we're going to be grounding ourselves in the specific realities of the case studies I've talked about Ukraine and about Sudan. And I want you to hold these as a statistics, but not just as a statistics rather, but as a human stories. How many of you are aware of what is going on right now in Sudan? Let me see your hands up. You're aware of what is going on right now in Sudan? Okay, right. I think probably because we are in Europe, we are closer home to what's going on in Ukraine than what is going on in Sudan. But let me ask us a question. What exactly is lost when conflict disrupts medical education, and what does it take to rebuild it? Can somebody try to answer that question? What exactly is lost when conflict disrupts medical education, and what does it take to rebuild it? Anybody wants to answer? Anybody wants to answer? Anyone? Anyone? Pardon? Who is the person? Can you just stand and say something? Yeah? Don't be scared. Go ahead. Time. One. Any other person? Pardon? People. Yeah, I agree. Again? Money. Yeah? Money? Anybody else? Anybody else? You see, the foundation of all of what you have mentioned is trust. It takes trust to call the other person an animal. Lack of trust to call somebody an animal. It takes lack of trust not to believe in someone. All right. Anyway, so now I will ask us to look unflinchingly. Oh, sorry, I've already talked about that. Now let me give you a number that should stop you cold. You realize that as of 2025, the World Health Organization has documented over 1,000 attacks on Ukraine and the Ukrainian health facilities since the full escalation began in February 2022. Now, and the attack keeps increasing, and it has increased to a further 20%, by 2025 alone, according to World Health Organization in 2026. But the damage to medical education runs deeper than the physical destruction. What do I mean by this? Now, if we take, for example, the case of Dr. Ali Demiliev. How many of you know, I've heard about him, Dr. Ali Demiliev, all right? Dr. Ali Demiliev was a surgical resident in Kyiv in 2022 who slept in hospital wards and performed surgery at night under bombardment, all right? And eventually, when he couldn't handle it anymore, he had to run away from the country entirely. He later described it as a new challenge for all of us to conduct and to continue our surgical education in wartime. It's difficult, right? Isn't it? It's difficult. Okay, so let me continue. By 2026, more than 43,000 Ukrainian teachers had been internally displaced or forced to flee the country, and nearly 1/3 of all classes are now taught fully online or in hybrid formats. This is not the kind of school, or this is not the kind of education in total that we want. And here is the invisible wound. 84% of Ukrainian medical students are already using AI tools. And thanks to you guys, because you made the world of AI, innovation in AI, a little bit popular, right? I mean, 2021, we only heard about ChatGPT and it was scanty, but by now we have a whole lot of AI tools that are, coming out of Ukraine particularly, right? And not to bore you with all of the stories so far, without the AI evolution came without any structural guidance, without any ethical frameworks, or without any faculty supports. And there lies that danger, the danger we're talking about. Now, what we are seeing right now is that all of us are navigating a technological evolution all by ourselves. We don't have any guidance, and that in a war zone. It's kind of, serious. Let me use the word. I want to use a modern word or vocabulary to describe it, but it's kind of serious. Now, let me ask you all this question. What does it mean to be a medical student when your university is a target? Somebody want to answer? What does it mean to be a medical student when your university is a target? All right, think about it. Let's move on. Let's look at the case of Sudan. Sudan's situation is, if anything, even more acute. Why? The civil war that erupted in April 2023 has devastated, a whole entire health system that was already fragile. Mind you, before 2023, there have been incessant pockets of crises, going on here and there. Now, by late 2024, only 30% of health facilities in Sudan remained operational. 30%. Think about it, 30%. Now, medical supplies were meeting just a quarter of the demand. A quarter of the demand. Over 1.3 million cases of malaria, 11,000 cases of cholera, and 4,600 cases of measles had been reported already. Diseases that flourished when healthcare collapses. A November 2024 report by the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, stated that the conflict had claimed over 60,000 lives in Khartoum, just in Khartoum alone, with more than half of the population facing starvation. These are the consequences of armed conflict in any nation, in any region of the world. So we don't want it. Now, for medical education, what this means is that no functioning simulation labs, no reliable electricity for digital learning, no safe passage for students to reach institution, and a catastrophic loss of experienced faculty. That is what it means. That's to answer that question that I asked you before. What does it mean to be a medical student when your university is a target? I remember I saw the picture of the Kharkiv Medical University being bombed in 2022. That memory still sticks with me up to today. While I have recovered from the emotional damage, all right, I have been able to, bounce back, to reflect, and use that picture to kind of like think about what can be done going forward. And I will get there. Now, the ethical dilemma keeps on multiplying in these kind of environments. Now, when a surgeon must choose between 3 patients and he has no imaging equipment, no anesthesiologist, no blood supply, what does evidence-based medicine mean at this point? Are you with me? Are you with me? Am I speaking to myself? Right. Now, and this is the context in which we are going to be asking AI to help. And it's a context that demands we think very carefully about what help actually looks like. What does it actually look like? Let me ask you another question. What does it mean to deploy AI in a setting where the electricity supply cannot be guaranteed? I'm asking you a lot of questions. I barely got an answer from you guys, and I want us to, interact, okay? But what does it mean to have or to deploy AI in a setting where the electricity supply cannot be guaranteed? I can tell you it will mean absolutely nothing. Anybody who's coming from Nigeria, and I don't say this with pride, I don't say it with joy, I say it with pain. Because even though my country, Nigeria, is not it's not being invaded by any external superpower, if I put it that way, we experience a situation like this. We've seen cases where doctors perform surgical operations using phone touchlights. You understand? Using phone touchlight. Now, in that situation, the war that we are experiencing in that country is a systemic one, but we're talking about the real-time war where bombs are dropping every now and then. How do you deploy AI when all of these things are going on around you? We will try to answer that question. Let's imagine, or let me put it this way. I want you to look at that picture and look at it very well. And as you're looking at it, let me ask you, how many of you came from areas like Sumy, like Kharkiv, like Zaporizhia, right? Okay. Does it bring some kind of memory to you? I don't mean to, get you emotionally riled up. But when the buildings falls, so does systems, and so does the system of knowledge. So does mentorship, and so does professional formation that sustain healthcare for generations. The impact of the 3-year war in the eastern part of Nigeria that was known as the Nigerian Civil War, the impact of that war is still affecting us. Who was not the one that fought the war? So many Nigerians here seated today were not the ones who fought the war. They didn't even know anything about the war, but we are still being bashed with the impact, the negative impact of that very particular war. Now, this is not a metaphor. Why did I say it's not a metaphor? Excuse me. Medical education is an apprenticeship model. It is built on proximity, right? It is built on observation. It is built on repetition, and it is built on relationship. I used to recall some of my medical friends back in Nigeria tell me that they went to visit their cadaver, and then they give their cadaver some very personal names, and they talk to their cadaver, right? I'm sure all of you know what cadaver means. So a student learns to suture by watching a senior surgeon's hand. So when they go and they understudy those cadavers, they try to see how things are done. They try to know where those organs that they want to operate on are. They learn clinical judgment by standing beside an attending physician at the bedside. They learn professional ethics through the culture of their institution. But when the war is there, how can they learn? All right? So when conflict destroys that physical and relational infrastructure, it does not just interrupt education, it severs the chain of knowledge and the chain of knowledge transition or transmission that has sustained medicine for centuries. Now, other statistics I want you guys to take note here is this. By 2026, this year, more than 43,000 Ukrainian teachers have been internally displaced or forced to flee the country, each one a broken link in that chain. Let's think about it. For those who are coming from countries where it is relatively peaceful, and I use the word relatively, I don't use it kindly, I use it with all carefulness, right? I use the word relatively to describe that anytime anything can tip the balance of the relative peace that we enjoy. We all know what's going on in Mali right now. We all know what is going on in the northern part of Nigeria right now. Even though I am 7,000 kilometers away from home, my heart is still connected and my heart aches because I've got family over there. We have internally displaced people within the Nigerian entity, just as we have internally displaced people within the Sudanese entity. All right? So they've been internally displaced, and each one is a broken link in that chain. Okay? The question we now turn to is, can technology, specifically AI, help us rebuild that chain? And if so, how will it help us, and at what cost? At what cost? The answer to this is going to be, I'm going to give you that answer in the next slide. And I will say that it is powerfully yes. I will give more explanation, but only if we approached it with the right values. And that's where responsibility comes into the picture. Okay. So before we move to the solution to the question that I've asked you, which borders around the issue of trust, because when system collapse, all the structure collapse. When the building falls, all the structures collapse. And when the structures collapse, it means that trust is lost. Let's take a look at the trust crisis. And we must name the deepest wound. The trust crisis is the erosion of trust completely. Trust is the invisible infrastructure of healthcare. Am I correct? Am I correct? I mean, I'm a patient. I go to my doctor, whom I barely know. I tell my doctor all the problems I'm having and believe. Because you can't have a belief without trusting the person you're talking to. You get my point? So I trust you because you're the future of medicine to be able to come up with the solution to take care of issues, even when the situation doesn't warrant us to be able to do our work effectively and efficiently. So I say it again, that trust is the invisible infrastructure of healthcare. Patients trust doctors. Doctors trust their training. Institutions trust their accreditation system. Government trusts their health ministries. And when conflict disrupts medical education, what it does is not just damage the buildings, it corrodes every link in this chain. Are you with me? Let's think about it. Think about what it means for a patient in post-war Ukraine to be treated by a doctor who trained during the war. I'll take that question again. Think about what it means for a patient in post-war Ukraine to be treated by a doctor who trained during the war. Did they complete their clinical rotations? You understand? Where were the exams conducted under bombardment? Is their degree worth the paper it's printed on? These are not just cynical questions. They are the questions patients are actually asking. And I did ask that question when that invasion started. The question I asked was, how? Because I know the larger percentage of a lot of my friends who went to Ukraine to study, and guess what course they went for? Medicine. A lot of my friends. I know a lot of my younger friends who are back to Nigeria right now, even though they graduated from this institution, who have had to go back to take some course in Nigeria after undergoing army and all the traumas that they had to carry. And they say had to go back and face some more scrutiny back at home. Let's think about that. Now, that's for the Africans who were indirectly impacted by, or let me say, who had to embrace, because it was an embrace, because you didn't want to go back, you had to embrace the ripple effect of what is happening to the country where you went to study. Okay? So think about it. And let's also look at the misinformation risk, which is real. When standard collapse, what happens is that qualified practitioner fills the gap. We call them quacks, right? Unqualified practitioner fill the gaps. When oversight disappears, dangerous practices proliferate. The long-term public health consequences of a trust deficit in medical education can outlast the conflict itself by decades. Tell you from the standpoint of the Nigerian situation. Our institution they've not been able to bounce back like they. I mean, I hear stories about the kind of experience my great-grandfather enjoyed during their time in the 50s and the 40s, even before we got independence, and compared it to what we have now. Let me give you one funny joke. In Nigeria, if you have malaria, before you get to the doctor, you have to first of all pray to God. That is the consequences. And in Nigeria, when you say, if a doctor refers you to a general hospital, that is the last place you want to go to, because they don't view or perceive general hospital as a good place to go to. Nigerians that are here say, yay. They know what I'm talking about. And that is exactly what happens when we have this kind of situation. Now, a 2025 rapid review in Frontiers in Artificial Intelligence identified 3 core themes that shapes trust in AI integrated healthcare. Number 1 is AI literacy. Number 2 is AI psychology. Number 3 is AI utility. You see, all these 3 are severely disrupted by this conflict. They are. Am I making sense? Are you with me? Okay. Now, this is why rebuilding trust is not a soft or secondary concern. It is the primary clinical and public health imperative for post-conflict or post-war recovery. We were not able to get that. We were not able to achieve that in Nigeria. And I've traveled, I've listened to people, I've asked questions. And my humble submission, even though I have not scientifically, done a write-up on it, is that war is a bad thing. Okay? So let me ask you, or let me give you one key insight here. Trust is not rebuilt by proclamation. In Nigeria, the president of the country, the military president of the country at the time in 1970, and the head of the secessionist state, right, came back and they declared on paper, no victor, no vanquish. But the lack of trust keeps edging deep and deeper into the fabric of the country up till today. What did he say? What did he say? Fabric. Yeah, it dips. It's if you look at the fabric of your medical medical codes right now, there are certain elements that combine them and made them what it is. So you can imagine that certain materials are entering into that, you know, the tiniest hole within your fabric. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so what do we do? How do we improve? How do we edge forward? And that's why I'm going to talk about AI as a catalyst for resilience and recovery. So here we'll turn from diagnosis to possibility. And what do I mean by this? Artificial intelligence is not a magic wand. It is not. But in the specific context of conflict or conflict-affected medical education, it offers something genuinely remarkable. That is the ability to deliver high-quality learning experiences without requiring physical infrastructure, stable electricity, or physical presence of expert faculty. And I, as a front champion or campaigner of AI, right, because I've been doing a lot of research in AI recently, I've come to agree, or I've come to conclude that if you don't embrace the evolution and the development of AI right now, you're going to be bounced out. Not that the AI is going to take over your job, but you will be replaced by people who have a better understanding of it. And that's why we're talking about AI as a catalyst for resilience and recovery. Are you with me? Okay. Now, I said that it is the ability to deliver high quality learning experience without requiring physical infrastructure, stable electricity, or the physical presence of an expert. Now, in the next slide, I'm going to be looking at 3 dimensions of AI roles. Okay, and that is number 1, the real world faculty training programs, the AI for surgical care in active conflict zone, and the technological frontier. Those are the things that I will quickly touch on in the next slide. But before I go there, I want to ask you a question. What can AI do that nothing else can? What can AI do that nothing else can? Let that question sit. What can AI do that nothing else can? And what are the limits we must honestly acknowledge regarding AI? Pardon? Somebody say something? Can you repeat? Okay, I need a microphone for him so that people can hear what he's saying. Yeah, making diagnosis based on AI, you know, AI generation, right? But then the other question is, what are the limits we must honestly acknowledge? Recall that at the beginning of this lecture, I said that AI is fast and rapidly evolving and is evolving. We are taking on this AI, but we are not being supervised. We are not being, it's not structured. Everybody is just coming up with different kind of stuff. So how do we make it more ethical for each and every one of us to use? And that's why we're talking about AI as a catalyst for resilience and recovery. Okay? And I want you to hold both the promise and the peril simultaneously. You know, that intellectual tension is where the most important thing is, you know, is happening. Let's move on. Let's not look at Ukraine, the Ukraine faculty training. I'm going to spend about 2 minutes to really talk about this. Now, this is one of the most important case studies in contemporary medical education, is looking at, and that is what's happening right now. During September 2024 and March 2025, what happened? There was a pioneering faculty training program which was implemented at the Ivano-Frankivsk. Did I pronounce it very well? Ivano-Frankivsk National Medical University in Ukraine. And the results were striking. What were the results? Let's look at it. 211 faculty members, about 29% of all scientific and pedagogical staff, completed foundational AI training. Participation exceeded 90% in departments such as anatomy and physiology. Now, if we go further, crucially, about 34% of participants were over 50 years of age. So, if grandpa is doing that, why don't you want to latch onto that? Right? 50 years old, that's our grandpa, right? Grandma, babushka. Yeah. Okay, now, let's continue. Now, what their participation did was that it demolished the myth that AI adoption is only for the younger generation. It's not just only for you, but you should embrace it because you are the future of medicine. Now, the university formally adopted a comprehensive policy on the use of AI intelligence system, and that was in May of 2025. Simultaneously, there was another research that was carried out by Harvard scholars at Risk program, which has been bringing Ukrainian physicians to, taking them to Harvard-affiliated hospital. And what I can see was that there was a mass general, and, they created a kind of fellowship, for 2 months to a year, and they provided advanced clinical and research training that, that they took back to Ukraine to rebuild their institutions. And in January of this year, there was a conference that was held in Harvard Graduate School, right? Specifically examining the AI role in Ukraine wartime education system. And the question they were asking was, can AI help sustain teaching and learning when a country is at war? I hope you are noting all these questions I'm asking us. Can AI help to sustain teaching and learning when a country is at war? Right? Now, the answer is this. The answer is emerging, and the evidence are there. And the answer is a resounding yes, but only with a structured faculty support, ethical governance, and institutional commitment. We all have to be in this. All right, I'm going to wait. Some people are taking pictures, and then I'll proceed. Do you guys understand what I've said so far? I need your response. Come on, talk to me. Okay. So, let's look at Sudan surgical AI. In February 2026, there was a landmark study that was published in Surgery, Practice, and Science. And the first of its kind was to assess AI's readiness among surgeons operating in active conflict zones. The study led by one of Sudanese, doctors, Asladig Suleiman, and his colleague at the Sudan Medical Specialization Board in Khartoum surveyed Sudanese surgeons working during the wartime, and their findings were very striking. Number one is that surgeons show moderate conceptual awareness of AI, but limited hands-on exposure. I will repeat that again. Surgeons showed moderate conceptual awareness of AI, but limited hands-on exposure. Two, the most significant barrier is that they lack training. There is that infrastructural gap. Of course, there is also power connectivity failure in a country, in a conflicted war zone. And recently we heard one of the presidents of one of the strongest countries in the world, coming up on, and I say this, with all carefulness, because I want to travel more. That is going to bomb the shit out of their power plant of the country where they have invaded. And of course, we know what the experience in Ukraine was, that one of the infrastructures that was targeted, the first infrastructure that was the electricity grid. And it was in the peak of winter. I come from a very hot environment. I go back to my country, you know, every other time, not once in a while, every other time. I was there last year twice. You know, I was there in 2024, 2023. It can be hot. I just saw one of my countrymen right now, and I say, I'm mistaking you for a Sudanese. You understand? Because the sun will burn your skin. So you can imagine living in an environment without electricity in the heat of winter, and you have nothing to warm you up. Devastating, right? 3 is that the most promising AI application identified by surgeons themselves, which were emergency triad, perioperative decision support, training simulation, and resource allocation, were under severe constraint. And the other findings was that surgeons called for offline capable. They called for offline capable context-adapted AI tools, not the sophisticated cloud-based system designed for well-resourced setting. They just want something simple to carry out their work. Okay? Now, alongside this, in September of 2025, let's go back in time, there was a paper that was published in BMJ Global Health, which documented how Sudanese surgeons are already using mobile phones, voice calls, photo sharing, messaging apps to provide remote triad, operative guidance, and post-operative, sorry, I'm not a medical person, so I'm trying to pronounce this word very well, post-operative mentorship. They were using all of these to try to create a way out. And this telemedicine, born of necessity, were not designed to be sold, but they had to develop a way out of it. All right? Now, let me give you one key lesson here. In conflict zone, the most powerful AI tool may be the one that works offline on a basic smartphone without reliable electricity, because you can't even depend on electricity for you to use the sophisticated AI solution to provide the result that you want. I just told you that in Nigeria, during the doctors go on strike, it's funny, doctors can go on strike for 1 year. And even though I am here in a country where healthcare is relatively, let me not say relatively, you know, it's affordable, right? I am scared because my family, I pray that none of my family will have any emergency, because they just will, right? Okay. So the key inside here is that context-appropriate technology is not a compromise. It is the only technology that actually does work. And how? We'll look at that now. So let's look from pages to pixel. I want to push back a bit gently on this framing, all right? And what do I mean by that? The shift from textbook to tablet is not the revolution. It's not the revolution. The revolution is the shift from passive consumption to active, adaptive, personalized learning. Think about that. Are you with me? Okay. Now, AI does not just digitize the textbook. It responds to the learner, it identifies gaps, it adjusts difficulties, and it provides feedback in real time. So for medical students, for example, in Kharkiv, who are studying anatomy, by using candlelight during the power cut, an AI-powered offline platform learning is not a luxury. It is not. It is the difference between continuing their education and abandoning it altogether. For a surgical trainee in Khartoum who cannot reach a teaching hospital, a digital twin simulation is not novelty. It is the only way they will ever practice a complex procedure before performing it on a living patient. Are you getting my point? Am I boring you? No. You are into this lecture. Now, this is where I will say that the reimagining we are talking about comes in. We're not looking at the pages anymore. We are looking at the pixel. We're not looking at them in isolation, but we're looking at them in connection. And we're looking at the scarcity to access, and we're looking at interruption to continuity. I'll move on now. So let's talk about how we integrate AI, digital twins, and extended reality. Now, listen to the statistics. In January 2026, a systematic review in Frontiers in Digital Health systemized the evidence of AI and extended reality in medical education. And the finding was also very compelling. AI segmentation tool can now convert patient imaging data to precise 3D anatomical models, enabling students to study pathology-specific anatomy without cadavers or physical specimen. Okay? And in conflict settings where anatomy labs have been destroyed, this is a very, very transformative tool. Let's look at the other part of it, the digital twin. Virtual patient simulation built from real clinical data. It allows trainees to practice complex procedure repeatedly, safely, and without risks to real patients. How many of you have already started doing that here? Let me see your hands up. You started using AI to simulate. Yeah, thank you. So, there was also a paper early this year that, okay, let me skip that. Let me just go on to the extended reality. Now, the extended reality, which is an encompassing virtual, augmented, and mixed reality, creates an immersive learning environment that transcends geography. So even though you are in Poland and there's a crisis in, for example, Zaporizhia or in Turkey, the surgeon there can reach out to you here in Poland, and you can actually show them what they need to do without them even performing the real surgery on the patient, So we talk about the extended reality. Okay, a student in a displaced person can, in principle, practice a surgical procedure in a fully immersive virtual operating theater. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, there's a critical caveat here. There's a caveat. All of these technologies require electricity. They require connectivity, and they require a device. So, in Sudan, where only 30% of healthcare facilities are operational, what do you think is going to happen? There are no requirements here. The frontier technologies are inspiring, but they must be paired with offline capabilities, low bandwidth alternatives for the most resource-constrained settings. In Sudan, it is dire. In Ukraine, I love the innovative approach of my Ukrainian friends. I mean, I'm so much in love with your people. Yeah. Is it yellow blue? Yellow blue. Very yellow blue. All right. Okay. Now let's look at the promise of AI in overcoming infrastructural gap. Let me paint a picture. In 2025, a medical student in Eastern Ukraine is studying in a basement shelter during an air raid alert. Their university building is partially destroyed. Their professor is in another city. Their internet connection is intermittent. What does AI offer these students? Huh? Anybody want to try? Say? I think you're right to postulate that, but let's come with me. I'll take you on this journey. First, virtual classroom and synchronize, sorry, help me to pronounce it. Synchronize. The opposite of synchronize. Yes, a synchronous learning platform that do not require physical presence or synchronous connectivity. So platforms like Coursera, EDX, and a purpose-built Ukrainian platform have seen dramatic uptick since 2022. Can you mention to me some of the AI platforms, the virtual classrooms that Ukraine has developed between 2022 and 2025? Can you mention one or two? Somebody want to help me? Right? Yeah, the name of the virtual classroom, like Coursera, like EDS, like Udemy, Gemini, but the one that was created by Ukrainians. I know there is an ATOR. ATOR is for the researchers, right? I think I came across that in 2023. ATOR, all right? There are so many, virtual classrooms that has been created by Ukrainians. So this is where this virtual classroom comes in, and that's to answer that question. Second is that AI diagnostic tool design for low connectivity environments, offline, capable AI models that can assist with clinical reasoning, differential diagnosis, and case-based learning without requiring a cloud connection is very, very important here. Okay? And then the third is personalized learning pathways. So unlike the textbook, you have the AI tutor that knows what each specific student has already mastered, where their gaps are, and what their need is, or what they want to do next. Suggestive AI or generative AI. You understand? And in disrupted curriculum, where students may have missed entire semester, this adaptive capacity is invaluable. We can't do without it. So let me ask you another question that you can think about. What are the ethical obligations of technology companies when their tools are needed in conflict zones? They should make it available. So how did we feel when Starlink wanted to take down their connect, because they were the one helping us to connect with ourselves, and they wanted to take it. How did we feel? We couldn't even think about it, right? So, and that will move me to the next, as I try to wrap up here. So here we move from technology to humanity, and because here is the uncomfortable truth. AI alone cannot rebuild trust. Technology is only a tool. AI is only a tool. Trust is a relationship. And a relationship requires human beings, their presence, their accountability, their willingness to show up consistently over time. So we have the concept of social responsibility coming here in the context of post-conflict medical education, which means asking, who is responsible for ensuring that the next generation of doctors in Ukraine and in Sudan receives a quality education? And what will be the answer? Who? One? Anybody else? Two? Parents? Three? Government? Four? Huh? Yourself? Now, if we sum all of these individuals that you have mentioned, if we sum them together, what do we have? What pronoun can we use to describe that? Everyone. Everyone is involved in this cross-building. Governments, all right? Individuals, parents, everybody is interested, right? And, what this chapter is doing is that it's challenging you to think beyond your professional roles into a civic one. I said it before. I said, I don't have to know my doctor on a personal level before I trust my doctor. So I want to believe that if tomorrow I come to you, if that's a probability, right? Tomorrow I come to you and I say, I have this, and it is in Ukraine, and everything, I still want to be able to trust you. You get my point? So, quickly, I don't know if I should say something about this or I should just skip it and talk about something else. All right, but let me just touch on it briefly. The ServeU project, how many of you have heard about the ServeU project? The ServeU project. The ServeU project. Now, the ServeU project is one of the most inspiring examples of institutional social responsibility in action. Now, this project is funded under the Erasmus Plus Capacity Building and Higher Education Program. You might want to take a look at it. And the ServeU is a consortium of 6 universities, 3 Ukrainian, that's Ukraine Catholic University, the coordinator, Tomi State University, and Dnipro University of Technology, and 3 international partners, the Katholische Universität in Germany, the KU Leuven, and the LUMSA in Rome. Now, the project mission is to enhance synergy between Ukraine higher education institution and local territorial community using service learning pedagogy to contribute to Ukraine's recovery. I'm not going to go further than that. All right? So you may want to, as a student, you may want to look into what and how you can also tap into these, possibilities to begin to generate, a better learning environment for yourself and make life easier for your professors. Am I making sense? Tell me, am I making sense? Okay, so let's continue. I think people are losing attention. Okay, can I ask us to do something? All right. Can we all please stand? Can we all please stand? Can you repeat after me? Can make it. I can make it. I can make it. I will make it. I only need to try. I will not die. All right, sit down. So let's look beyond the technology. Let's look at the human element of AI integration. And there are 3 risk demand that we must focus our attention on. Number 1 is the algorithm bias. Number 1 is the algorithm bias. By this, I mean that most AI tools are trained on data from high-income, predominantly Western populations. So do they really relate to our situation? Okay. So when we deploy such AI in Sudan or in Ukraine, they may perform poorly on different demographic or demographic profile, disease presentation, or clinical context. Number 2 is data privacy in conflict. Patient data collected in conflict zone is extraordinarily sensitive because you give one away, we don't know what can happen. You understand? Everybody is trying to hide their face, okay? Because we don't know who is looking for who. So who owns it? Who can access it? Could it be used to identify and target individuals? We don't know. So these are not hypothetical questions. They are live concern for practitioners who are working, in fragile settings. Now, number 3 is dependency versus capacity. Dependency versus capacity. Now, what I mean here is that there is a real risk that externally deployed AI create dependency rather than local capacity. It's very fragile and complex. If we're not careful, we begin to depend more on AI than use our own brain to try to solve those situations or to solve those problems. So if tools disappear, when NGO leaves, what has been built if we don't have any of those AI tools again? And that's where we're going to be talking about sustainable AI integration, which must strengthen local expertise but not replace it. Let me ask you another question. Who do you think should be responsible for auditing AI tools that is deployed in conflict-affected healthcare settings? Pardon? The developed countries. Any other person? Thank you very much. The government that knows the situation of what is going on. So let me ask you another question. Right now, as we're seated, are we still thinking as medical student, or are we thinking more as social science student right now with relation to what I'm talking about? So I've moved your mind away from AI. I've moved your mind into social science or sociology, where you are able to connect who determines how AI is being deployed. Who does it? Let's move on. My answer would be that it is a shared responsibility. It is a shared responsibility. What's happening to my, yeah, it's a shared responsibility. Rebuilding medical education after conflict is a collective endeavor. No single actor, no single technology, or no single institution can achieve it alone. Not even President Zelensky, or the Prime Minister, or the various governors of the various municipalities that you have in Ukraine. Everybody has to come together, including the international students who are studying in Ukraine. The question you want to ask yourself is, after my study in Ukraine, what next? You should stay back. That's my own suggestion. You should stay back in that country to provide medical assistance, just like every other Ukraine medical doctors are doing. Some of you may not agree, but that is my own, proposition. So I want to dwell on this for a moment because it runs counter to how we think about solutions. Now we will look for two heroes. The first hero is the technology, the program, then the institution that will fix it. All right? So, but the evidence from Ukraine and Sudan tells us a different story. Now the question is, what works is not a single intervention. It is a web of relationship. All right? A web of relationship. Now, I will take some case study also, so let me say some research also from the Serviu Consortium of the 6 universities that I mentioned before, all right? And what they did was that they co-designed a service learning framework for post-war recovery, and they created a model of what shared responsibility looks like in practice. So, like I said before, and I'm going to repeat it again, not one institution is leading, right? But all the contributing institutions have come together. Now, for example, I just designed a course that is called COIL, right? It's a collaborative online learning system where my university in Poland is going to be, doing a synchronized course with another university in the Philippines. And we have to find a common ground on where we both agree, because I'm teaching global corporate social responsibility. The other person is teaching something about intercultural communication, which are synonymous to one another. I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So the question is, how do we use this? Okay. Now, shared responsibility means shared risk, shared credit, and shared accountability. It means that when something goes wrong, and things will go wrong, no one points fingers to the other person because everyone owns the outcome. We don't want to blame ourselves for not performing very well. Is my time off? Oh my God. Okay. All right. So we have the shared responsibility, which is the future. Okay. Quickly, I'll talk about the role of medical institutions in societal healing. It promotes transparency and accountability. It addresses the issue of mental health, because all of us, whether we like it or not, we are mentally disturbed after seeing all the gory and horrible things that we have seen, or hearing all the loud bangs that we have heard. It's not a one-time solution. And then it will lead communities towards healing through trust. Quickly, let's quickly look at stakeholders engagement. Can I have okay. Now, trust is not given. It is built through sustained dialogue, through shared accountability, through inclusive decision-making every level, as we can see on the screen. I know I've already sent you the handout, the notes for you to read. You can glean more on it and then have a deeper understanding of what I'm talking about, right? And when we build trust, what do we mean? When trust is built, trust in AI, when we build it, we'll be able to trust our AI. We'll be able to trust, our AI literacy, and we'll be able to trust also our scientific literacy. So trust in AI does not just exist in isolation. It flows along a chain from algorithm to clinician, from clinician to institution, from institution to patient. It becomes a cross-sectional framework that integrates digital, AI, and scientific literacy to which is essential for this, transfer to function reliably. That's what the trust does. Who are the key stakeholders in wartime recovery of education? Number one, the government bodies. Number two, international NGOs. Number three, academic institutions. Number four, technology providers. Number five, patients and the community. So everybody is involved. Everybody is a stakeholder. And we have two categories of stakeholders. We have the internal stakeholders and we have the external stakeholders. All right, I'll stop asking questions now. Do we bridge the gap? Human touch and digital precision are not competing forces. They are not. We should stop treating it as such. They are complementary pillars of trustworthy, resilient healthcare system. So we should begin to ask ourselves right now, what AI model can I come up with that will help to provide solution to what is currently going on? And we'll talk about the collaborative framework for trust building, joint ethics guidelines, open dialogue mechanisms, public awareness campaign. All of these are what we need to make sure that we build that trust. Are you with me? Are you tired? Are you a little bit? Please don't be tired. Okay. All right. Now I'm wrapping up. What are the lessons here? What are the lessons here? There is a success story. There are also challenges. The success story is that educators have gained tangible AI competence and confidence from the case study, from the research that I mentioned and the statistics that I gave you at the beginning of this lecture. And it demonstrated the viability of rapid upskilling in crisis context. The challenges is that there is a scaling adoption crisis across diverse and dispersed institutions, which proved to be very complex. And it requires a sustained investment and flexible delivery, which is why Ukraine needs that 90 billion euros to recover. I am in support of it. And I'm happy at the little change that we have seen from our sister country on the other side. You understand my point? In their last election about 2-3 weeks ago. That will help us. Am I speaking to you? Am I talking to myself? Okay, so ethical perspective. Now, practitioners operating in active conflict zones offer irreplaceable insight into what AI feasibility actually means when resources are scarce and lives are immediately at stake. And that was why one of you said the other time that, the doctors will have to step up their game and then make sure that everything is on process. Okay, so we have the context-specific solution, and then we have the local ownership. So we must localize a solution, all right? Sustainable AI integration demands capacity building within the communities and not dependency on external providers. And I think Ukraine has done pretty well on this ground, all right? Now, we'll talk about global collaboration for impact. Okay. And here, I'll quickly talk about the pathway forward. Recovery is not merely restoration. It is an opportunity to reimagine medical education as more equitable, as more adaptive, and as trusted than ever before. We have to change our mindset, okay? And it's not easy because you will see the other guy who did you wrong during the conflict. and you will feel like doing something. You understand my point? But you don't have to do something negative. You still have to save life. Okay. So we have the human dimension, we have the critical thinking, and then we have the AI digital literacy. I will ask you guys to, read more into the articles and then get a deeper understanding of what I'm talking about here. So when you imagine medical curricula for digital age, what you're doing is that you're embedding AI literacy and data science as a foundational competence. Secondly, is that you're cultivating critical thinking and adaptability over, rote knowledge. And then you are also preparing graduates for the complex, ambiguous challenges that lies ahead. That is what reimagining medical curriculum means. I'm speaking now to the professors. I'm speaking now to the, to those who are aspiring to be professors in the medical line. It's a long way and long road to recovery. The process of sustaining trust and innovation is not going to be easy, right? So it's like a husband and wife who have fought a horrible divorce case, now trying to come back together. It is difficult, correct? Maybe our professors will understand that. And maybe those who are from homes where such has happened will also understand that. But it's a long road to recovery. We have a long-term investment. We must have that. We must continuously evaluate, and we must continue to create a culture for learning. Everybody say, dawn of a new era. Come on, sing it out, shout it out. And this is where I'm going to talk briefly as I round up. Trust, innovation, and healing are not competing priorities. They are the three pillars upon which a truly resilient medical education system must be built. My friends from Ukraine, look at that picture that you have there. How many of you want your medical facility to look like this one day? Let me see your hands up. Yeah. Right. Well, I mean, AI, we have generative AI now that we can use to, I use AI to redesign my room. You understand? I first of all saw a picture of what I want, and then I called the designer to come and fix it for me, and then it was done. So whether I use AI or not, we've just shifted from textbook to something more resourceful. That's what we're talking about. So you have to be open-minded because it's the dawn of a new era. Now, what's the call to action? Invest in AI solution as an individual. Don't wait for your institution to do that. Champion responsibility. Engage all stakeholders. Ask questions. It's difficult questions. Don't be scared. The worst response you will get is a no, right? But you have asked the question that will make the person whom you have asked to go back and think about it. Let us rebuild medical education on a foundation of trust, on a foundation of resilience, and on a foundation of hope, so that the next generation of healthcare professionals emerge stronger than the conflict that sought to silence them. Thank you. So I'm going to take some questions. Yeah. Please, microphone. Hi, how? Hi.
Hello? Can you see me?
Yes, we can. We can see you.
Hello. Thank you very much for your lectures. It was extremely interesting and thought-provoking. Greetings from Kyiv campus of the Kyiv Medical University. So greetings from Kyiv.
Sorry, can you repeat?
Greetings from Kyiv,
Oh, hi. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for joining. Yeah.
Kyiv campus is here. The room is full, and our medical students are listening to you, and I'm sure that they enjoyed listening to you. My name is Radmila Krivtsova. I am Vice Rector of Kyiv Medical University, and by the way, an expert in medical law. And it was extremely interesting to listen to what you pointed out. As you mentioned, you asked the students from Polish campus who know what's happening in Ukraine. We not only know what's happening in Ukraine, we experience what is happening in Ukraine and in Ukrainian medical education, right? Yeah, and we were very interested in listening to what you pointed out, what challenges you pointed out, and you did it brilliantly. And I must say that we have solutions to those challenges, not to all of them, but to some of them. Ukrainian government, Ukrainian higher educational establishments, including Kyiv Medical University, have already worked out a number of and implemented a number of solutions. Of course, this greatly depends on time. For example, the story in 2022 is quite different from that in 2026. And what happens in forefront region differs from what happens in other regions, including Kyiv. Although all of us in Kyiv, particular, are exposed to constant risk of Russian missile and drone attacks, and our university, by the way, was fortunately not substantially but partly damaged by a missile attack. But at the same time, we study, and we continue maintaining trust in medical education. Довіра до медичної освіти. How can we do that? And how can we be sure that our students, when they become medical school graduates, when they become doctors, can still be trusted? First, whenever is possible, education, medical education is offline. So our students have an opportunity to study at their rooms because it's extremely important for a clinician to study offline rather than online. We have here well-equipped shelters, so in case if air raid siren happens, our students can go to shelters and study continues there. They even pass exams in shelters. So we have everything as it should be: classes, exams, simulation, a very good simulation theater, and conferences, communication. So I believe that Ukraine can be an example of resilience and of maintaining trust in medical education, even under those extremely difficult circumstances. And what came to my mind is that we can work together, we can establish scientific cooperation, think about a joint paper and I believe that we can give some ideas to your research in terms of resilience and in terms of recovery. As far as recovery is concerned, in Ukraine there is a concept that recovery will not start after the end of the war. It has already been started. So we are in the recovery process, even now. And what is also important is what you stressed, what you emphasized in terms of the use of IE. I'm very happy to say that in our university, academic integrity is very highly maintained, and we try to stimulate students while using artificial intelligence to maintain academic integrity, and on the other hand, stimulate using it. So it will be very good to study together how to achieve this balance and how to go to the dawn of this new world, so that it won't become the brave new world in the sense of Aldous Huxley, but it should become the new world in the sense of just and opportunity given a new world we all dream about. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Excellent presentation.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
To many new ideas, and I hope to our future cooperation. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so I think I have a question from here. So, can we turn the camera to him so everybody can see him? Yeah, because I want your colleagues to see you from Ukraine. Yeah. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I need maximum quiet, please, so I can hear, because I'm a musical person and my ears are very sensitive to the slightest sound. I can pick it from anywhere and I can tell you who is talking. So please, I need you to thank you. All right, go ahead.
Like, how can I use like some chat or Gemini and say?
All right, thank you. So to answer that question, right, it's one of the leading question in research and in interdisciplinary research now, that how do we use AI without losing our minds? I think that's what the question is. So we can use AI to, get clarity into certain things that we don't understand, but we should not depend on AI to give us solution to what we are asking question about, all right? So for example, we talked about using AI to simulate, right? But we all know that we can't have that simulation without some human beings putting those programs on those AI, putting it into those AI softwares and all of that, okay? So it is when we are able to think about it, that's how we are able to develop the empathy to be able to use it on human beings, because we are dealing with human life here, right? So I've got for example, let's assume that I've got some kind of, it's not me, okay, it's not me. Let's assume an hypothetical scenario that you have somebody who is in a war zone area, who is having breast cancer, for example, and needs an immediate surgical operation, all right? You are a surgeon in that war zone environment, you understand? You don't have access to all the things tools that will help you to, but you already received some AI facilities to help you to go through and navigate your way around. You can use that, right? You already have an understanding of how to navigate, but to have a deeper perspective of how to move around, you can use that. So don't depend too much on AI is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, critical thinking, right? You have to ask questions all the time, right? All the time. You have to keep on asking yourself questions. Okay, what's going on here? How do I, that's what critical thinking is. It means thinking outside of the box. All right. So you don't depend. Now, nowadays, a lot of people are depending too much on AI. You hear the vice rector talking about academic integrity. All right. But I also want to tell you that if recently there was a generated AI research paper that was accepted by a publishing house, but they had to state that it was generated by AI. Do you understand my point? So in that case, that paper was completely solely written by AI, but in this case, you are dealing with human life. And we're talking about trust here. You get my point? So you don't have to depend too much. I hope I answered your question. You don't have to depend on AI, but you can use AI as a tool. You recall I said, yes. So AI must be a tool. The question is, how can I use this to make medicine better? How can I use this to make surgery better? How can I use this to make prescription better? Right? Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 questions, okay? So let me start with you. Right. Please, microphone. Mm-hmm.
In low results for conflict center by Sudan, as you mentioned, access are stable. How realistic is the implementation of AI in medical education, and what practical solutions exist to make it accessible in such environment?
All right, so let me answer that question briefly. First of all, if you recall during the use of the lecture, and I kept referring to where we have to adopt the AI tools in conflict zone. I said in places like Sudan, it's more like third world. The conflict there has been in existence for a very long time. Having an extensive or a high-profile AI, tool will not work in that very particular situation. It is easy to incorporate AI into that system, but in an offline mode, right? So they can have something on their phone, because virtually almost everybody have smartphone, I want to assume, okay? So they can have something on their phone where they can, reach out to and then conduct that without even having to rely on electricity. I hope I answered your question. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So the question is, do you think increased reliance on AI in medical education will affect how then developing COVID and the practical part?
Yes.
So the dealing with patients and
Yes.
surgical part.
Yes.
So do you think the increased reliance on AI medical education will affect how students develop their thinking?
Yes, I don't only think so, I believe so. You understand? Now, as medical students, please, as medical students, you don't have to, you can use AI as a tool. You see, the latest technology during my generation and that of the rector was Google, right? We started with www. That was our latest technology. The likes of MSN, Yahoo Messenger, and later on, Google came into the picture. That was what we were using. And we're basically using them to probe, to ask questions. You understand? We're relying on it to give us and to do what we want to do, but we're using them to probe, we're using them to research. So you can use AI as a tool to an end, not the end in itself. Thank you. Yeah. Next question. And then you, and then the last person. All right. Hi.
AI-driven healthcare solution be used to move global health decisions beyond criticism of systems in countries like Nigeria? But you made note during your whole lecture, you kept criticizing Nigeria, or I didn't say it right in me, but I just asking how we can get beyond that and make solutions towards actionable context-specific improvement rather than relying on comparison with structurally different European systems. Because truth be told, the systems in Europe and the systems in Africa are totally different. So what are your solutions you can give us that can provide answers to my question?
So number one is improved systemic structures. Improved systemic structures. What do I mean by institutional structures? What do I mean by that? The government needs to really get involved. And who are the government? You and I. Who voted the man at the Terms of Affair into the presidency? We did. Whether we were here in Europe or we were in Nigeria, we did. You understand? The larger population of Nigerians voted, and then they said they wanted him there. So if the system collapsed, right, the responsibility is on, first, the person who is commanding, second, on the people who voted him in. Are you getting my point? Now, secondly, is that we need to be open-minded. All right, we need to be open-minded in the sense that we need to embrace in the Nigerian context. It doesn't sit well with me too, because I'm a Nigerian, right? I don't like it. You understand my point? I don't like it when people look at me as if we are from the backside of the world. We are not from the backside of the world. And for some of you are here, you might not know, Nigeria is one of the richest countries in the world in terms of resources. Okay? We have human capital, over 200 million, 250 million people counting. I think we're about the third largest populated, or fourth or sixth largest populated country in the world. That counts for something. So if the system is not working, then something is wrong. And then you talk about, it doesn't sit well with us. It doesn't sit well with me to compare, but We have to base our standard on something. We're not comparing because we feel belittled. We're comparing because we want something better. Are you following my point? Yes or no? Right. So if we don't build a structure that will sustain what we are looking for, then what we are looking for will never exist. Now, like Michael Jackson said in his song, Man in a Mirror, what did he say? I'm standing, I'm looking at the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. There lies your answer. I hope I answered your question. All right, the next person. Yeah.
Same thing also, there are some teachers that in other countries that are able to, they have the surface on everything. So they bombard students with questions. So they don't know what's going on. But the solution the students have is to use the same AI that you mentioned to like them answer. So there's a conflict where students have no solution because of the war to learn AI. And the same teachers are complaining that students are using AI to make their research. So how do we find the...
So to answer that question, you know, in a more broad, or let me say in a more analytical way, we need to embrace AI. You understand? The same way we had issues with www. In the early 2000s, right? Maybe your professors here will understand what I'm talking about. When we were crossing from 1999 into year 2000, there was a shout of millennium bug. You remember millennium bug, right? And everybody thought the whole world was going to collapse. It came from a closed-minded perspective, a stereotype mindset perspective of what that solution, that internet solution was supposed to give to us, all right? So we need to be open-minded and we need to embrace it, you understand? So if you use AI to understand concept, precept, and perspective, it's okay. Do you understand my point? But what I will not agree to, which is what those professors from those other places are fighting against, is that people might be tempted to rely more and to use AI as their own brain rather than use their own brain to direct AI. I train AI. Do you understand my point? I train AI to do a lot of things. I tell AI what I want it to do. I describe what I want it to do, and then it returns to me and I read the solution. And after reading the solution, I still go back to confirm if the solution given to me is okay or not. You understand? So for those people in those countries, I'm trying to answer your question, right? For those people in those countries where AI has not been embraced, they need to be more open-minded. Otherwise, they will find themselves, you know, not moving forward. You understand? I hope I answered your question. Okay, the last question. Okay, one more. Sorry, before you ask the question, please, can we try to maintain some level of decorum? Because I think it's not too kind on the person who's speaking when we talk about him. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry, hold on. Hold on. So I'm picking those noise and it's distracting me. I really want to hear the question, please.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Usually, like community to develop. Okay, it's learning idea. I understand. But I'm thinking, if, for example, okay, let's be able to like, okay, you say about wait in Nigeria, don't care. Sound like a program, even you say they have like a lot of processes. So why they can't even produce for themselves? First of all, like there is like lack of mentality, like idea, but basically in this other country, how like let's be money, let it be like even the let's be like some technology. There's stuff from like the 20 years of existence, some of the country, nothing changed. So what's the point to have a community and again? Like we need to change something. Okay, we think, but how? If we're doing everything, for example, because as I understand, government and other government, okay, even if like, okay, we give you everything, we will change. But still, we give money, for example, some idea that it is, and it didn't change. I stay the same. And okay, you say that we need to be all open mind. But how? If there's like not the national idea that because if like government. Okay, so maybe.
Okay, let me answer that question. Thank you very much. Everybody put your hands together for him. Let's put our hands together. So, what we need to change is mindset. What did I say? What we need to change is mindset. No matter how much anybody gives to you to develop yourself, if you don't embrace the mindset of actually really developing yourself, you can't develop yourself. So you have to start with yourself, mindset. Now, two, you mentioned government, you mentioned international organizations. Who constitute the government? Individuals. Who constitute the international organizations? Individuals. You could be part of those individuals. I could be part of those individuals. So if at the grassroots, we don't begin to embrace a positive mindset or mindset shift towards what is good, towards what is ethical, can't be any change. And that's why corruption looms. That's why dictatorship, exists in some countries, in some places. Let me wrap up with this. I lived under a dictatorial government for almost a quarter of my life up till now. You understand? We transited back into democratic process in 1999. All right? I was born in the era when there was a dictatorship, military dictatorship in the country. And then we transited into a democratic process. And then 2 years after we transited, there was another military coup d'etat. And then it was fear all the time. So you can imagine I'm going to school under panic. I'm going to school under fear. The fear of what I can't even see, the fear of what I don't even know. All right? And then there is also the case of religious crisis that is happening, for example, in the northern part of the country. I think I was about 12 or 6 years old, 12 or 9 years old, when I first heard about the first religious crisis. It was war. People were killing people. I was hearing it on the radio. I was reading it on the newspaper. It affected me. But I got to a point where I needed to make a shift in my mindset. I grew up in a generation where everybody felt that they need to get into the government for them to eat as much as they can. So that kind of mentality will not, allow development to take place. And it will definitely affect medical education. It will affect hospitals because there will be no hospital that will be built. The reason why doctors are struggling in Nigeria is because the systems and the institutions that are responsible for taking care of them are not in place. But in Ukraine, it's different. even in wartime zone, in wartime period, we see them thriving, maybe not as much as the would. Do you understand my point? So to answer your question better and deeper, we need a mindset shift. If we don't shift, we don't have a shift in our mindset and our thinking about, and that's where critical thinking comes in. It's not just only related to, medical education, right? So we need to have a shift in our mindset. We need to constantly continue to ask ourselves, how can I make it better? Not to say, why is the government not doing it well? Because when you have the opportunity to make it better, all those thinking that you have been having, all those questions you have been asking yourself is what you will implement. And then everything begin to work. Did I answer your question? So, ladies and gentlemen, future doctors, I wanted to say a very big thank you. And thank you to our guys from Ukraine, I hope you had a wonderful time. Thank you very much. Please, I would like you guys to wait because I'd like to have pictures with you. Okay, I would like to document this moment, this very wonderful moment.
Okay, Dr. Salman, can you come here? Just like this. All right, let's say summed up.
Okay.
Now the round of thanks to Dr. Solomon. Thank you for fascinating lecture and for your motivation for our students. Let's give the very warm set of applause. We are all united. We are one university. We have here campus in Poland and our main campus in Kyiv. So thank you for being so strong and unbreaking. So we have a present for you. That's some candies from Ukraine.
Oh, wow.
So the main symbol of our university is our chevron. So this logo was created in 1992 actually. So we need to give it you this.
Thank you very much.
To have the ceremony. Okay,
Thank you.
So let's have a photo. Okay, now everyone can be enjoy this long weekend. Well, not so.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Questions?
Yeah, many questions, yeah.
Thank